the Wizard Academy's dismal food.
Shove the pudding in your eye holes.
Only on a dare.
And you know it's bad when the barbarian is stepping in to calm everyone down.
Or are you simply staring at the ground because you're also dealing with the horror of the day?
Man, it can be both. What is everyone's passive perception?
Lol.
We are also trying to keep a low profile here.
Yes, clearly low profile is definitely in the cards. We are not a wise party.
I cast a little prestidigitation on some of my party members to get some blood off of you. There we go. Everybody, scatter and blend. Scatter and blend. Did I miss something? Did he have like a pair of horns that he ran out with and went, oops, forgot, and took them off?
What's wrong with horns?
Did you think that you were going to walk away here with your weapon?
Kazzra likes to loot.
Mission Report 8, Twinsday 14 Astera, Year 568, Post-Chasm. Ellis. Our bodies are broken. So much blood has been spilled. You're surrounded by fools and monsters. After being ejected from the Goblin Market, seeing our potential patron, Jaxiron, murdered in broad daylight, we eventually defeated the false priest, Marcus Forte, and the twisted abominations he pulled from the ground. There was a shadowy figure aiding him. It didn't escape, as we were not threatening it. We were unable to do even that, but simply left. The shadowy trees and figures evaporated. Forte's body and much of his armor turned to ash and swept away. While investigating, Kazzra found some writing on the body. A leather cord is his holy symbol, the same as Karis's. Engraved on the back were runes that read Yathan, which I'm told means absence. It is unclear to me what this other priest, Karistan, intends, what his connection is to Forte. They clearly know each other. They were rivals of a sort, brothers in arms at one point. Will Karis's heart turn to absence in the same way as Forte did? We now find ourselves alone with the Sun Priest who's on death's door, surrounded by his brother's crimes, dozens of dead innocents. This must never happen again, and I will ensure it doesn't, whatever it takes.
As we pick up here, Kazzra has picked up this amulet from the sort of rapidly desiccating corpse of Marcus Forte. And on this amulet, he's read these runes, and it's triggered this memory of being in this hallway some time ago, speaking with this person about entropy and how they can interact with entropy. In that moment, we're going to leave Kazzra here, digesting this moment, as I think if he still had ears, there might be a bit of a ringing in them. We're going to shift over to Jaxiron. And I think for Jax, there is a sense of familiarity in this scene, not necessarily for the specifics of the weird tentacle-like protuberances that are currently kind of crumbling without any sort of force sustaining them into ash, and the particular enemy. But there is a familiarity in this pattern of post-action, post-chaos, this moment of we've done a thing, what is next? And I want to know in this moment a few things from Jax. I want to know what prompted you? I think in this moment of, as this familiarity sinks in with you, I want to know what was going through Jax's head when they rushed forward almost instinctually into this combat, into this dangerous scenario. Running headfirst into danger is not, I think you have a moment, that's not a normal response for a lot of people. But you ran straight in without thinking about it, without, like, just on instinct to protect. And I want to know if in this moment there's a specific thing that you recall that is triggering through memory of where that instinct to protect comes from.
I mean, I think the simplest answer is it comes from the people he lived with, like the village and the, like, yes, I've described before that his past is full of this place of transition or it's not really a liminal space. It is a fixed space, but it's a place that is designed to be, welcoming to the transient, right? It's supposed to be a place where people can come and go and feel safe here, but they're not, there's not necessarily a strict, like hierarchy or even code of, like, these are the insiders versus the outsiders or anything like that. It's like, if you come here, you are given respite and care and, get to partake in the things that are here with the understanding and expectation that you are also responsible for its care, that you take a part in that, in the protection and the upkeep of this place. It is part of the larger ecosystem of nature and of life around it. And it, if people who come in aren't willing to give back to that cycle, then it will wither and die.
I think in this moment there's a little bit of a memory that comes to the surface. And in this memory, you are a child. And I think some other children are behaving as children do. And I think you may have been the target of their ire, or perhaps you stepped in to protect someone. Which of those do you think it would be for Jax?
I don't think any of his sort of instincts or natural behaviors are learned. I think they're like the response, they're not trauma responses or anything like that. I think he very much was if not the protector outright, it was more of a like, he's always been fearless. He's always been kind of, willing to take on things that are at least as big as him, if not bigger than him. And the inverse of that is also true, that it's like, people shouldn't pick on, it's the pick on someone your own size kind of thing, right? So, like, seeing seeing an injustice done, on the basis of one person having power over another or things like that has never flown with him.
So I think on that natural protector instinct, in this moment, in this memory, you're nursing some bruises, being tended to by a very sort of maternal figure in your life. Let's describe this maternal figure for me.
I think it would probably be like kind of a generational removed kind of thing. So, like a grandmother to child kind of situation, as opposed to a direct parent. And like she's very Jaxiron's memories of her are sometimes fuzzy. Like there's not a strong, clear, image of her in his mind. What he remembers most about her are the things that she said, like the words of wisdom that she often gave out of, and a lot of them were at the time, sounded like nonsense, or they're the kind of lessons or things that are phrased in a way that just sounds ridiculous, especially to a child, but with the context of, as you grow and learn about the world and those kind of things, those metaphors start to make more sense.
Yeah. So, this moment, this figure, we'll call her Mora. Mora sits behind you, gently with her claws sort of raking through your scales. It's not necessarily a pleasant process because she's prying out the ones that have been knocked loose so that new scales can grow in. And there's a little pile growing next to your knee of these brassy bronze of these scales. And I think in this moment, too, there's a sense of injustice that is endemic to the young. That is, when things are so clear to you, it can be frustrating when the world doesn't align to that very clear process. And so I think you probably are a little frustrated because, the kids that were picking on this younger Dragonborn that you defended for not having wings is, in a clan that had a lot of wings, for just being the simple crime of being not like the other kids. And I think that there's this sense of frustration of where did this come from? Why do they think it's okay? Why are their parents punishing them more? Why isn't this happening according to my sense of justice as, a 9-year-old? And in this moment, Mora is very much, she's trying to instill upon a child this sense of the spectrum of gray that exists within the world, which is always a daunting process. And she says Jaxiron, and she pauses here in this moment of combing through these scales to turn you slightly and take one claw up around the delicate scales under your ear, just kind of flicks one and you're just hold on. Jaxiron, I know it's hard to understand this right now, but you will see that everything around us moves in a cycle. We are beholden to the wheel as much as anything else in nature. We don't merely say what comes around goes around because it's a nice rhyme, because it's a nice rhythm, or to sound like we know more than you do. We say it because it's true. What is at one point in the wheel will come around again. It may look different. You may not necessarily recognize it, but it does come around again. I want to show you something. She points to the pile of scales next to you. She says, take a couple of those. And they're very, at this age, they're very they're a little flimsy, right? They're thin, they're bendable, the keratin hasn't really hardened, as it will later in adult life. She says, take a few of those and put them over on that flat rock over there. Take a pebble, set it down just on the edge to prevent them from blowing away. Put them down here and then come back. And You follow. You do, and you come back and you wait as she continues to sort of pick and smooth down and puts a poultice on, kind of the raw skin underneath those picked scales. And after a while, you see this very bright red and green and purple, very beautiful plumage. This beautiful bird fly down and kind of peck at the scales a little bit and kind of, tilts their head, eyes the scales, selects one, takes it, and flies away. And it's in this memory, I think adult Jaxiron has a moment of, this is a memory of springtime, of violence in springtime, and that's why this is coming to you at this moment. And you remember Mora saying, pointing as the bird flies off, she says, he's taking that scale home to the mother of his children so she can build a nest. And he's decorating this nest for the next generation. The next generation of those baby birds will take their first breaths in a home decorated by a scale you lost in defending the young, in defending the innocent, in defending those who needed it. Your actions here have long-reaching consequences, the likes of which may never really be known to you. You may never see those birds that grow up in a home decorated by your scales. But they did, and it mattered to them. Actions have consequences, and what goes around comes around. The wheel always turns. I'm proud of you. And that memory fades, and you're standing here looking at what an action that is going to have such far-reaching consequences that I don't know that you have words to really even express that in this world that is still familiar and yet not. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I'm going to shift over to Will.
As that memory fades before you shift over, Jaxiron picks a loose scale out of his arm and just sort of flicks it away.
Will, you're here in this moment, sitting on the ground, I think.
I don't think I'm sitting on the ground at all. I think I was still standing, still fighting, still ready. And I think Will's biased towards action.
Right. What I'm saying. You're perhaps kneeling on the ground next to this fallen paladin, who has used the last of his strength. And I think, give me an insight check.
So it'll be fun.
Go ahead and give it to me with advantage, actually. Well, okay. 15. 15.
How about a 15?
How about a 15? For those not seeing this, he rolled 2 15s. Same thing twice.
It's actually a 14, so.
It's enough. Because in this moment, I think that you are staring into a little bit of a mirror. Karis didn't need to heal Jax. You were standing. You had not healed anyone. You are capable. There are guards rushing into this corridor, all of whom you've seen carry first aid kits on them, who are well equipped to deal with emergencies. In fact, I think you're training clocks that all of the guards are armed with. They have swords, they have crossbows, they have armament, but they're all carrying pouches of things that are useful in natural disasters. In the event of, you get the sense that in this city, it's not, they have ramparts, but this city was obviously not one that was, it's not in any kind of contested territory. It's not, you spotted nothing that would suggest that they expect ambushes or have problems with bandits or have any other issues. So these guard are essentially first responders. They are there to help in medical emergencies. They are there until they can get people to the healers. They are there to help if there's a house fire. Like, that is the sort of thing that they're used to dealing with, and that is how they're outfitted. So yeah, they had small vials of healing potions on them. They have restoratives. They have, and they're going around and they're tending to the, you see them almost acting as combat medics, going around and tending to the people in this plaza that are wounded. Karis didn't need to spend his little last bit of energy here, but he did. Because there's something in him that calls out to an echo of your past that you recognize. And I think in this moment, it's that sense of self-sacrifice being instinctual, being part of a training, not just instinctual, driven into you to the point of it being instinctual. That working in the light means the sublimation of self. And as Will is looking into this mirror, how does he feel about that?
In the moment, it probably feels familiar, but also like a funhouse mirror, right? It's like this is what this is supposed to look like, but also it feels wrong. It feels off, and he can't maybe really fully articulate why it feels that way, as much as like this was like, it feels like a path that he could have gone down, a path he has gone down in the past, but he doesn't have that now. He doesn't have any of that context now. He doesn't have any of that memory now. And so, like, shorn of all of those lived experiences, he's looking at it almost in some ways the first time, and it feels off. Like something's just not connecting. He's like, it should be this admirable figure, right? It should be this heroic figure who just did this brave and selfless thing. But it doesn't, it's right, but it's not right. And whether it is the association, right, between these two, sort of this person and the man he just killed, who's just, quickly, I guess, rotting away on the ground far too fast to be natural. Maybe it's just, who knows, right? But without that learned experience and just sort of in his heart free of sort of those memories, it's like, oh no, hold on, there's something wrong here. There's something broken here. And it's not really clear to him what is wrong or what about it is so disconcerting, but something is bothering him.
There are footsteps echoing around the plaza in the sudden, almost shocking silence that echoes in the aftermath of where there had been chaos and noise. And the sound of those armored footsteps on stone, I think, like the jangling of armor, I think this gives you a memory of being in a place that is cold. Not so much in temperature, but in feeling. It's all stone finishes. It's all bare wood. There are no soft textiles to be seen anywhere. It's very Spartan. And I think it's potentially a place of worship that is not decorated in the sense of your last memory, but this is a place of worship that is utilitarian, that is expected. So these hard surfaces and things. What does this place look like? This is a utilitarian place within a more militant sort of order.
Yeah.
So what does this look like?
I think that it would be very easy to see it as not beautiful, right? I think, and to the untrained eye, perhaps it is, right? But these few things that are taken from place to place, maybe, right, or are set up in this very sparse and seemingly austere way, they've all clearly also been created with a lot of care, right? There's, maybe some echoes of the holy symbol that we've seen in some previous memories, and it looks like it's just this plain object, but it's clearly been built in such a way for folks who know to look for it that it is durable. It endures. It is made with a great deal of precision. It's one of those things where it's like, this is something that would be used out in the field. It's used not out in the field when associated with this sort of very sort of martial group. It's designed in such a way that you could pick it up and use it as a weapon. It's designed in such a way that it's not going to break. It's not going to be flimsy and shatter when a cart hits a bad bump, right? It's built for purpose. It was created in this way. And that is true of all of the the limited furnishings, the limited accoutrement in this sort of very Spartan space, this very plain space. That it's not. Yes, it is very plain, but it's plain on purpose. It is plain because it needs to be plain and service all of these different potential needs. We don't have room in the carts, right? We don't have room in the supply caravan for all of this, extra, gaudy stuff that you may see elsewhere. We have room for a very limited number of things. So those things must be built to last. And they must be transportable and must be serviceable.
I think at this moment, you're probably still fairly young. I mean, you're not physically, you don't look particularly old, right?
I don't think we've seen a memory where I'm older than I am now.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that would even work. Setting that aside, we haven't seen a memory. Maybe that's a thread to pull on for later. But we have not seen a memory where Will looks older than he is.
Right, and I think Will's probably in his 20s, upper 20s,
early 20s.
Early 20s.
Yeah.
So in this, you're probably at that phase of life that in a place and in a culture where it's considered adulthood, but it's not. You're like 14, 15. But you've been inducted in this order from a very young age. And enough that you've graduated through training, you've gone through things, you are, the muscles are there for the training. You can hold up, you fill out your armor. You don't look like a callow youth. You look like a young man. But you're 14. And I think anyone else looking in on this, they see a world where people don't necessarily die young unless it's in conflict. And so people on the outside of your civilization, of your order, look at this as an archaic practice. And there is that sense of that. But there's a sense of pride within your people of this order, of this, it's tradition. Very, very long-rooted tradition from the days where people didn't live as long. Tradition. And it's, some of the practices are archaic, but that is one of the pillars of this is that connection to the past. And in this time, I think you are being treated as an adult, as someone who is capable of making reasoned, informed adult choices. And you're walking with someone who is a mentor within this program. And they're talking to you about taking the final step in your training, which is taking an oath. So I think first, who is this mentor to you?
I don't think it is anyone that I'm directly related to. I feel like family is kind of a funny thing anyway in this sort of where he's from. That maybe it's not a sort of a traditional nuclear kind of situation. But this person specifically is not anyone who's in that sort of direct group, whatever that looks like. I think it is a relatively young sort of, someone in their maybe early 30s, late 20s who has moved up fairly quickly, and this is a maybe not their first the first time they've done this with someone, but it's among the first that they've worked with a young supplicant to help them figure out what their oath should be, or rather what the oath to the order looks like. And I think that there's a sense of Will has a very, like, not awe, but like, oh, this is exciting, right? This is new. This is, rather than the necessarily the weight of what that looks like. This is where he's supposed to be, so he's very excited about it. This is what things have been leading up to. So yeah.
How confident is Will in this moment? Has he dedicated himself to his training? Is he top of his class?
I think he is, unshakably confident, or at least so if you give him sort of a zone of truth, right? He would say, why would I not be confident? I've done the training. I've done everything that has been asked of me. I've been selected for this from a very young age. That I'm exactly where I should be. This is how it's supposed to work.
How much does this mentor figure look like the man in front of adult Will?
I think a little different, right? I think that this is a time where ideals maybe had a little bit more, people were a little bit more idealistic than they are today, right? Like Carrots feels a little messier, right? Some of that is, I think, because Will is himself an adult now, right? And can see things a little differently. But in the moment, it is this idealized figure. And again, the one he sees in front of him is not, right? It's this funhouse mirror of what duty looks like.
In the present, is Will making this connection that in this past memory he was maybe too young to see the messiness, the complexity?
I think he's seeing that something has gone wrong. It's clear. Looks wrong.
Demonstrably, yes.
Yeah. And he's not sure what or why. And that confusion, that sense of like, wait, no, this isn't what it should be, right? And maybe this is that, tying back to Jaxie's story, like that 9-year-old sense of injustice, right? And there is that sense of conflict within Will as well, of like, wait, no, this isn't as it should be. This is not
This is not good.
These people have done something horrible. And, you know, maybe it's, you know, the memory of seeing this sort of other figure that maybe reflected that idealized version. Maybe it's the connection between seeing these two figures, one kneeling, self-sacrificing, the other rotting away on the ground, but both wearing the same clothing, both dressed the same way, both had been acting the same way. And again, I think Will's bias is towards action. And like, without even realizing it, like, he still has his sword out. Like, he holds it to Karis and says, explain yourself.
There's a moment, an echo as that memory fades of talking with his mentor. And you hear their voice for a moment as Karis, you know, his sword is kind of digging into the grout between street tiles into the dirt, and he's, you know, looks up at you. The moment before he's got these kind of bright blue eyes, but the moment before they connect with yours, you hear your mentor's voice kind of in your ear, and then it fades, going, I don't know that protection is the right path for you. You're a blade, not a shield. And as Karis looks up to you, we're going to come back in this moment, but we're going to shift to Pertinax. Pertinax, you'd been flying a few minutes ago up in the air. What is your instinct? It sort of in the same vein as the rest of the party, this sudden, weird, sort of almost peaceful bubble in the aftermath of this chaos is something that is familiar. And what is your first instinct in this kind of moment? Is it to be up high to survey, or is it to be down on the ground with people?
I think it's actually to come down. Pertinax wants to check on the townspeople who he was trying to find a way out for them and maybe didn't necessarily succeed because more things popped up, and was trying to point people to an exit. And I think that's his first instinct, is to go see, did people get out? Are there people who need help?
You're going to be flashing back to a memory. But it's not the gentle sort of flashback that you've had before. And I think as you get down, as you survey, there are moments where you find yourself moving out of muscle memory to help the injured. And there's a phantom pain in one of your wings. So in this moment, this is not a gentle transition into memory. These bits of memory come hard and fast as your body moves through this plaza on muscle memory, on rote instinct to help the injured. You know you've done this before. And the memories of you're moving with such swiftness to help the guards wrap bandages and triage wounded that you've not only done this once before. The plaza fades, the sound of rushing water from the fountain fades in and out as you move, and it's this hard transition in your mind to walking through this plaza to walking through this sort of forested town on the edge of this water, where, you know, that it's like a bayou type settlement where there's bridges over the swamp. There's, you know, and you recognize this as similar to the place where you had first had that memory of taking a vow to serve. And as the sort of mist drifts off and fog drifts off and lifts in this plaza in the present, before your mind, in your past, there's smoke, there's fire, there's as you walk past bodies on the ground here in the present, there are bodies in your memory littering everywhere. And as you look over and you see trampled on the ground these symbols of the Aeostrian communion in your past, in your memory, the bodies around are the bodies of your people, and bodies bearing a similar symbol of a sun with a face. And there's a moment where you remember this chaos and this place. It's familiar, it's of your people. Is it known to you? What is this place?
This is not far from where I actually grew up, and would be where people from my community would come to meet. Essentially, not all the time, but on a regular basis. This was sort of a city hall, town center kind of thing, out but separate from towns. So it's a place where people would come together a few times a year to discuss issues, see what kind of help needed to be given out. Essentially, what would be considered a government seat in a larger community, but this wasn't really a government. This was groups from all around coming to talk.
There are, in the present, there's a body face down in the fountain. In the past, there's a body face down in the swamp water. You hear the cries of someone looking for a child frantically. And those cries are echoed in your memory. And I think the tone of that cry, you recall a specific voice calling out your name with that frantic cry that only comes from someone who is a parental figure. Who would that be to you?
Think of how Pertinax was raised. I think there were more than two parent situation. Maybe this is something where a household has 3 or 4 or 5 adults. So this was one of these figures. I think a woman, whether she was his biological mother or someone else in the household, but had raised him as from a baby. Was looking for him.
You hear called a nickname that has only been reserved by this one person, this one voice. Is the only one that has ever thought to call you this nickname, or is allowed to. Because I think in this memory you are an adult, and this is not the first combat situation you've seen, but this is maybe the first time that it's hit so close to home. And you hear, Naxi? Naxi! Nax? And a woman comes rushing through into the plaza. How do you react at this moment?
I run up to her as quickly as I can, picking through the debris and bodies on the ground, and grab her arms and say, I'm here, I'm all right.
She's kind of panting, and she says, Why? I don't understand. I don't understand why would they attack here? This isn't the front. I don't understand. You're okay? Your wing is injured. Let me help. And I think in the present, you feel a phantom twinge of an old scar near the base of your left wing. And she says, hey, I can help. I'm sorry, I can help you. I can't find Sarai or Temis. I can't. Why are they doing this? I know that we're not the wizards. We're not. I don't understand. And I think in that moment, in that memory, you might look around. I was like, like, what? Why did they attack here? Who attacked here? I think in the past, this is not a surprise to see bodies with this symbol on their chest. You fought these people. But it is shocking to find them here. There are rules to engagement. And in this moment, as this fire is drifting and things, there are survivors in the memory that are coming forward. And one of them is a figure because you can hear still some distant fighting in the past. And it was a situation where you were called quickly to come deal with this. And you can hear that there are people that are allies and things that have come to deal with this. One of those allies approaches now. It is a figure that looks not unlike Kazzra. Different mask, different timber, different sort of glowing light that emanates from their mask. Different. It's not Kazzra, but it is someone like Kazzra. And this figure comes to check in with you and says, Captain, we've driven the remnants of the order back. We don't. And he just kind of looks around, and I think if he had facial features, I think his body language conveys the sense of pursing of lips and processing of horror and quickly compartmentalizing and categorizing. And he says, we've entered a new phase of this conflict. The council will... This has to be documented and brought to the council as crimes against law. The order is now saying that in order to purge this darkness, in order to cease the operations, my orders, operations that we've already ceased, but that we have committed an essential crime against the light, against Dominator, and against natural law. And they are using this as justification to strike wherever they see fit to weaken our alliance and weaken us. And this cannot be allowed to continue. And the figure looks down and then looks up. We have contacted one of their order that sits on the council. He's young, but very influential within their order. And I think when you can do so without leaping across the table and throttling this man for what has transpired, I think you should speak with him. And he gestures out to a small rise within this area of, it's swampy, but it's almost like a wetlands type area, like you think of like Eastern England centuries ago, right? You had all those islands and wars with the land between, that's all marsh, and there's Fenland. That's the word I was looking for. And you look up at this rise of land that has like a small, crumbled old stone building that's no longer in use, but there's a tent pitched there, and underneath that tent, that bears the colors of the Wizards of the High Desert Wind, with a flag of truce, with the flag that this is not to be, this is an area of peace and talking and parley. And there's a figure pacing, and I think in the present, part of you instinctually turns to look at Will. And you see this pale blonde head reflect the emerging sunlight, and that in the past memory, there's a figure on a hill in armor that almost looks like glass in a way that reflects what firelight is thrown at it, and a pale head of hair. You can't see their face in this memory. You don't remember their face in the memory, but you remember a very distinct door-like shield. Very, very distinct sort of figure. And you know this to be, instinctually, you've seen this person at council meetings. You know that they're influential. But the memory sort of fades out as you hold this sobbing parental figure and look up a hill at a person who may or may not be responsible for this horror inflicted on your people, because you had the gall to stay allied with the people you've always been allied with. And that memory fades. What is your instinct in that moment?
I think actually, like, just walking through the square, I kind of have to stop and steady myself for a moment and take a breath and come back to, I'm here. I'm here right now. I need to take care of the things that need to be taken care of right now. And then I'm going to sit down and think about this. And I think that is, he's got to compartmentalize that for right now, because there are people right now that need help. And I think he also thinks, I've done this before too, haven't I? I've learned how to do this. And goes on with what he was doing.
Yeah, I think that's very instinctual in Pertinax. I keep saying instinctual. It has become instinctual because it has been done so very often. So in this moment, we're going to kind of sift back everyone to the present. Kazzra, you're holding this amulet with a language that you recognize and a name that has triggered a memory. Yathen. It's a word that means absence, but you know it as a name. So to backtrack, that memory that you had of speaking with this figure in a mask bearing the symbol of the goddess of magic, this figure who has also probably been a mentor to you in ways, a colleague, in this hallway staring down at this strange green mask that holds within it this darkness, this unfathomable, hungry darkness that consumes anything within it, held within stasis within this mask. And you recall her saying, "We gave voice to the divine. We mortals. We gave voice to the divine. They did not give voice to us. Why can we not give this voice? Why can we not speak with this force? Why can we not do this intentionally?" And that is connected to the name Yathan in your memory.
Right, this was the green devil thing with the darkness in its mouth. That was often, yeah. It's that I recall.
So what do you do in this moment? You're standing in this present in the wake of this chaos holding this amulet.
All right, so I'm holding this amulet. Have I moved back into my mind, and am I now in this place with this person in front of me, this memory being triggered again, and I'm speaking with them? Or am I simply in the square looking at the amulet?
I think in this moment it is that memory is faded.
Okay.
And you're looking around.
I am looking around. I'm going to, if we're back in the present, I'm going to take the amulet and I'm going to study it. I'm going to flip it over, look on the back, look all around it. Take a look at the body as well and see if there's any markings, tattoos, scars. I'm performing a rather invasive search of what's left before it completely decays away, trying to investigate medical knowledge, religious knowledge. This is evidence and it's going away. This is all that this is to me. And I'm trying to collect every bit of data that I can.
Give me a medicine check.
18?
Yeah. The way this body is rapidly disintegrating, and decomposing, yes, but disintegrating is a better term. This isn't like a wet decomposition. This is not a rotting. It is all essence of life force has been drained, and it is crumbling like a blackened, charred mummy.
Dust to dust.
Dust to dust. But the point at which the body is sort of crumbling in is in the center, in like the stomach region. Like that is where it had all sort of vanished. And as you look, there's nothing there but dust. As you kind of pull off the chest plate, that is kind of also rapidly disintegrating. There's nothing there that seems to be pulling it, but that is it's already kind of dust scattered there, and it seems to be spreading from that origin point.
Okay. So he disintegrates almost instantly. Like he's there, and then like 10 seconds later, there's nothing left but dust. So I stand up and sort of using like my hand, I just sort of scatter the ashes just sort of across the square. I sort of stand up with a grumble, like, "Oh, loathsome cur. Nothing can be gained from this." And I look around at the state of things and everybody else, and I'm curious about the other dark figure, the sort of twisted creature that appeared and wandered through the square and then vanished. And I make my way over towards where it was scuttling and sort of moving across, and I'm trying to see if it left any char marks or scarring or anything that indicate just what it was, because we did not actually recognize what this being or creature was, other than it was something bad. Am I correct? And then it sort of vanished through a portal in a specific spot, if I recall correct.
Go ahead and give me Arcana or Nature.
I'm better at Arcana. That's going to be a 16.
It wasn't anything that you recognized. It wasn't anything that was familiar in any of your studies. And there's some of the figures you sort of have a vague understanding of. The shadows, the oozes you recognize, which have were rather whimsically named by one of your order as black puddings, in reference to, the Wizard Academy's dismal food, while you were all still alive and eating. And
I still eat.
Shove the pudding in your eye holes.
there's
Only on a dare.
Schlorp.
I think like in your sort of your academic memory, your mind
Okay.
palace, because like you recall reading a quip in a book of creatures that it was named a black pudding by your people because the wizard who had discovered it goes, oh, it's just like, it's just like lunch and pudding back at the academy. And so you sort of recognize that the tentacles from the ground are strange and they're kind of solidifying into almost charred wood,
Okay.
charcoal. And the shadows, those shadows sort of appear in the wake. You had seen them before, in the wake of places that had suffered famine.
Okay.
Where like an intense feeling of hunger had lingered in an area, and where even the shades in that area then still wanted to consume life-giving force, where that echo remained pressed upon the world.
Do I see Jessamine nearby by chance? Something just sparked in my brain, Kazzra's
Mhm.
brain. Right. I stop and I'm as soon as I recognize like shadows, my eyes glow for a minute and I make my way over and I go to Jessamine Cairnworthy and I look down at her. Is she in a state to talk, or is she just sort of like lost in the horror of it all?
She's doing something that you also kind of instantly recognize, which is that compartmentalization. Bronwyn has approached the wooden dais and has very carefully and tenderly sort of wrapped the corpse of Rodri Serral in his own cloak, kind of reunited with the head. His neck was snapped. He wasn't decapitated.
Right.
Sort of gently wrapped up and covered the face and everything. And Jeff
So this is Karis that did this, you said?
No, it was
No.
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn, okay.
Jessamine is sort of you kind of catch her between tasks, like she's looking around for another task that needs doing.
I walk over to her, make my presence known, and very calmly place my hand upon her shoulder just to get her attention towards me, just to sort of break her out of the moment of whatever task she's locked in. And when she looks at me, I say, you spoke in the cart of a chasmed darkness, Eos Tereth? Or is there something that I am not remembering? Apologies, I have not my notes.
She kind of... Oh boy, that's... I don't know that that's something I can really process at this time.
Would...
Eos was... It's the Eostrian communion. Eos was the savior that beat back the darkness and that defeated the beasts of the chasm. That's what the whole religion's based on.
Wheels turn, connections being made, ancient lore.
I didn't
creatures
pay
of darkness.
attention in, like the catechism lessons. I don't. But yeah.
I make a note that if I get a moment.
More dark and hungry and vile. It's how they're always described.
I give a nod and I say, I appreciate you giving me this information. And I turn around and I walk back over to my companions and I say, the deceased lord of the town had a library apparently that had a great amount of books. I'm sure there are tales in it that might be useful if we wish to ascertain what happened here today. When people are in a mindset to talk, I suspect that we should be speaking with his son, a young cleric, and see if we can gain access to those books. Why do you have a sword to this man's throat?
I like that it takes that long for him to clock.
Yep, just realized it.
Yeah, that's on brand. Strong personal brand.
He's got books to talk about first.
I have books to talk about. I
Yeah.
have books to read.
Order of needs here.
There's a puzzle here. I'm trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden I'm like, got an amulet to my past, darkness.
We're both getting information in our own respective ways. And I just need you to respect my culture.
Yes, very well.
Will, why are you holding a sword to this man's neck?
I'm waiting for him to explain what the actual fuck just happened. He doesn't say it. He's in his own. I mean, he says, "Explain yourself," and waits.
Karis has sort of locked eyes on you at this moment, and
Understandably,
there's not any surprise in his face that you're holding. There's not any affront that you're holding a sword to his neck. Like, it's like, yeah, he with the roles. There's an instant recognition of if the roles were reversed, he would do the same thing. And he looks at you, and then he looks out around and he goes, I don't know.
Oh, come now.
try.
Bronwyn kind of joins you now and goes,
If I feel like she's getting close enough to try to stop me, then the tenor of
She's
this
not making-
may change.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's not making any motion to stop you. Like, it is
Good.
soldier to soldier recognizes that this is a moment, and that, yeah. She goes, for what it's worth, I trust him, but, and looks down and goes, what the fuck? And Karis kind of, he has a moment where, like, one hand slightly, like, almost lifts to, like, run through his hair, and then, like, nope.
Thinks better of that. Yeah.
Says, I didn't like, and he looks down at, like, the scattered dust and says, I overheard him. I came into the barracks to get a change of clothing, to check in, and I haven't known this man long. He's only been in Ellis a fortnight, but something about him never sat right with me. He was ambitious in a way that is self-serving and not. He looks up at Bronwyn for a moment, and without saying it, he looks at Bronwyn and says, and he almost wants to say I joined, but he says, we're friends. And you get the sense here that friends is sort of a code. It's like, we're friends because you know how I feel about the hierarchy of the communion, about the institution versus the faith. And this man he struck me as the epitome of that, of where it was institution and authority and power and self over mission and faith and oath. And I didn't like it. I just thought it was the usual self-serving oath. I have never seen power like this. I have never seen creatures like this. I don't know. Did did he make a pact with something? And he looks at Kazzra. He looks at you. Pulled something.
Yeah, I hold up the amulet. It would seem that your order has a heretic problem. And I sort of dangle the amulet by a chain.
May I?
I don't. Yes.
May I look at the amulet, basically?
Yeah,
exactly
I will show
look
it.
at the amulet.
Yeah, I will not let go of it, but I will show it and hold it close.
You can look with your eyes now.
Yeah, I will. Right, yeah. Correct. Yeah, I will rotate it however is requested, but I will not relinquish control of the item at present.
I don't know what that language says.
If I can read it, if I can read it in the common tongue, then I will read it. I will tell what it says.
Like Yathan.
Yathan, which in language me means absence, possibly entropy, but absence is how I know it.
Yathan is... Fuck.
I take it this means you also understand it in some way that I do not. Or are you simply staring at the ground because you're also dealing with the horror of the day?
Bronwyn kind of shifts mind gears and goes, man, it can be both. Give him a...
I just give an eye over
like
to Bronwyn and then look back.
The tiniest smile.
Karis, you can see that he's processing. Like his eyes are moving like he's reading something as he's thinking through a memory. And he goes, Yathan is the old language word for darkness. It's the original name of the chasm. And he looks up at Bronwyn.
Nobody sees this, but Kazzra is smiling, feeling as though he has figured something out and is very pleased with himself. Just crosses his arms.
When Bronwyn also cracks the joke about it can be both, Jaxiron takes that moment to step forward and try and de-escalate, at least to the degree of, we're not about one wrong move of a wrist will end up with a sword in someone's neck. And just is like, it appears we both have more to learn from each other. Maybe we can lower the temperature a little. Not touching anyone, not necessarily inserting him physically, but just, at least using his presence and his voice to try and interrupt the, interrupt the current tenor of things.
And it's bad when the barbarian is stepping in to calm everyone down.
If I get a moment, I would like to insight Karis while he's thinking, to sort of get an idea of just what's going through his head.
Please do.
Expertise in this.
What was it?
17.
Okay. I mean, that's enough to see that he is... When Bronwyn said it can be both, it was both. Sorry, it's spring. I'm trying not to sneeze. You can see that he is absolutely processing, the what the fuck is also echoing in his own skull of what the fuck. And he's also processing that information you gave him and going, because there's a thing in his head that is, what is this? I've never seen this kind of magic. I've never seen this kind of power. I've never, I've never encountered this, let alone in something in my order. And where did this come from? And then this process of this very old term for the chasm. And
yeah, Kazzra's very much understanding. This man has had a day, right? But all of the thoughts that are going through him. So I'm still trying to just see if there's anything else. So that's enough for me to put trust kind of back on the table right now. What he's going through is understandable, and I don't.
What is
see
everyone's
any
passive perception?
Well,
13.
11.
9.
Also 11.
We're not a wise party as a general
No.
rule.
My other pastors are pretty good. Perception, not.
That's good. You see kind of Bronwyn kind of looks up and looks over, and a few minutes later, or a few seconds later, you also clock the sound of soldiers rushing in. Karis kind of looks at you, Will, and goes, "Can I stand?"
Do you need to stand to think?
Because in a moment, this plaza is going to be rushed by Templars who are going to see a stranger with a sword to a brother's neck.
You're going to see a set of whatever the hell that is with matching symbols on it.
Will, we're from
You say you've
Riven.
never heard of, you
Not
say you've never
trying to
seen anything like this
bring things to
before.
ourselves.
But you've clearly heard of something like this before. I'm seeing a lot of hand wringing. I'm seeing a lot of sad faces.
Can we not have this conversation in a tavern before Templars come in and make things even more complicated for all of us? You can still keep a sword or a dagger to him. I have no problems with that, but I do agree that the ocular of what is about to occur may seem very strange to people when we are also trying to keep a low profile here.
Yes, clearly low profile is definitely in the cards.
And with an organization that may currently be run over with a bunch of heretics, as I wrap up and put the amulet away so nobody sees it.
Yes, heresy is sort of the problem at the moment.
And you want a whole group of them to suddenly come in, rush in, where maybe half of them may be heretics and see that we're holding it. There's just
While I hold
layers here.
While I hold a potential heretic at sword point. Yes, I do.
Jaxiron steps like where he is at arm's length to both of them and puts one hand on both Will and Karis's shoulder and just squeezes Karis a little bit harder, certainly enough that Will can tell that it hurts Karis and that he's like, this man is not going anywhere, but also puts just a little bit of pressure on Will to say this is we don't need any more bloodshed here. Doesn't say a word, but just does that and is we can still interrogate him and also not look like the bad guys to every other cop who's about to show up.
Karis also in this moment opens his hand, the hand that was still kind of braced on the sword, and lets it fall.
Great. Will puts his sword away. Did you think that you were going to walk away here with your weapon? Sir, please. Please.
At this point, Bronwyn kind of steps around Karis and steps up to you, Will, and goes, I get it, but breathe.
Important thing because of time. Was there anything on the body, loot-wise, that I would figure would be of value or use to us that I could have grabbed?
No.
Done. Okay. Kazzra likes to loot?
As they're sort of standing up, Will, now with his sword away, Will, with his free hand, just sort of brush the little fetlock away from his head and just put just a tiny little twinge of his own healing magic into it. And there's a little strange, just heals that up for him.
As Karis moves to stand, Jaxiron does haul him to his feet, does not let him fully rise under his own power. Just to make it clear that it's you are not you're not buddies here. So
Karis kind of, you hear him sort of huff in a semi-amused manner, he's and kind of looks at you I get it, but then honestly leans on you.
Right.
You are holding up this man's weight right now.
He's fine. He's got one hit point, at least. Well, two now, at least.
Will, when Bronwyn, sorry, I was bringing up her character sheet. She's going to, when she gets up to you, when she says, I get it, but breathe, she's trying to persuade you to just, I get it, but you're also a stranger here, and I know these people. For 4, so I don't think that really does anything persuasion-wise.
Yeah, hold on, let me...
Oh, I can't get my story
Yes.
state drawn one. Am I the only one that's from Riven and the rest of them are from elsewhere?
The swamps. The swamps around Riven.
Right. Swamps around Riven, understandable.
Which is not near here.
Did I miss something? Did he have like a pair of horns that he ran out with and went, oops, forgot, and took them off? Like, why are we holding a sword to this man's neck? Wasn't he healing us and also killing the monster down below? Or is there something that I missed in the combat?
Hey, what's wrong with horns?
I mean, but not that you pull off when you come out and aren't supposed to have them. Or
don't
black veins in the face or something. 12 eyes somewhere hiding on the body that blinked.
Pertinax, please tell me, am I going crazy here?
Actually, in a moment, Pertinax, you've not really sat down to process that memory. But do you have any reaction to the sight of Will holding a weapon to someone?
I think at the point when Pertinax came into this, kind of saw what was going on and probably rejoined everybody at a point where tensions were very high here, and has just been watching. Just been kind of keeping an eye on everything that's going on. And trying to see if any of it feels familiar.
Not to prejudge the witness here also, but maybe that's seeing someone who looks kind of like Will having a sword held to their throat. Not just being the aggressor here.
There's that. But there's also, I think, a moment where... Give me an insight check, Pertinax.
19.
You're looking at Will in this moment and seeing body language that is so familiar that emotionally it feels like a gut punch. This utter conviction of being in the right in a situation, of others trying to de-escalate or calm tensions down in this is a man who is a weapon, who, whether he wants to or not, is acting on this instinct, and Will is that. How does that feel to you in this moment? Like, how are you processing this? Why are you so convinced?
I think a lot of this has been, I had this memory, okay, I have to put it aside and not think about it for a bit. And suddenly coming face to face with something I maybe saw from it, someone I maybe saw, or someone who at least reminds me very strongly of it. And I think Pertinax actually kind of steps back a little bit. You know, again, walking in, seeing everything being tense, and probably doesn't register to anyone as odd that he kind of walks in, looks at things, and kind of steps back a little. But I think he kind of moves a little bit to the outside and he kind of grabs onto something that's nearby and just kind of stands there to, and again, take a few deep breaths. And maybe realizing, okay, I've done the thing that has to be done. Now I have to think about this, because if I don't, this might be a problem. And maybe something is a problem. I don't know yet. We have to figure this out. But I can't, again, I can't have the emotional reaction right now in the way that I want to. I need to figure this out. But instead of putting it aside, let's stop and think about this and not get involved in what's happening right now.
I want to ask a random question. Pertinax has a tail. Is it like a cat's tail that kind of betrays their mood?
Oh, that's it. That's a good question. I think so, and I think it's probably something that, again, he's likely learned to control, at least to an extent. But boy, it probably isn't under control right now.
I need the rest of the party to give me insight.
Look at that.
17 from Will.
Somehow.
My passive is a 15. Do I still need to roll?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Nine.
Well, why not? Let's just roll anyway. 19.
Jax, you are so focused on just like keeping. You're now focused on Karis, and who is kind of looking over his shoulder as Templars approach. Kazzra, I'm going to get to Kazzra's reaction before I get to Will's, or what Kazzra sees. Kazzra sees Pertinax laser focused on Will and sees that tail whip back and forth. You see the rest of Pertinax's body language as someone who is calmly standing and waiting. But the tail puts you in mind of sandcats you had seen in the desert right before they strike. And I'm going to move here to Will. I think that in the corner of your vision, Pertinax's tail catches your attention. And you look over and you see something that I don't know that you're expecting. And so I'm curious to get your reaction in this moment. But you see recognition. And it is... Pertinax is looking at you with the recognition of an enemy. So I want to know how you feel in this moment and what you're doing with this information.
I think there's some level of surprise. I think there's some amount of, oh, okay. My ally is viewing me as a threat for something that I've done, right? Maybe it's the threat of violence. Maybe it's something else. So let me take this. Let me take a step back, right? Like I don't want to antagonize Pertinax, right? So what? Basically, he's already put his sword away. He'll actually go ahead and just, stow his shield on his back also, and look over and sort of almost like plaintively, say, Pertinax, what do you think we should do?
You see it too, then, I say to Will. Sort of quietly.
Yeah, you just get a sort of a semi-committal,
And stop. See him stop and just close his eyes and take a deep breath. And then do it again.
Count backwards from 10, then try 100.
Essentially, yeah. Let's see what happens when the Templars get here. And kind of turns away, actually, and steps away a little bit. Not walking far away, but definitely to where, if you were saying something in a normal voice, he probably wouldn't hear you.
Pertinax is making a really good move. I also kind of step away from the body and sort of move back and look more like a bystander watching this than somebody who is directly involved in helping to obliterate this person. I want to see what the Templars are going to do, so I try the best that my mummy self can to walk away a bit and sort of fade off.
Yeah.
There's probably crowds gathering that are kind of looking, wondering what's going on. Maybe, I don't know. So
there's really nothing left of Marcus but like a smear of dust.
And some armor.
And his entire outfit, right?
Yeah.
So.
That also kind of crumbled. Like you had seen the corruption spreading across that breastplate.
Got it. All right.
I just assumed it was like a patina of corruption.
Yeah.
The metal itself.
Okay, the whole thing is
crumbling.
Everything was being corroded.
Okay.
Mummy shit, man. Mummy shit.
There's also those root-like tentacles that had erupted from the ground have also, by and large, largely crumbled, but the ground is still kind of cracked and broken where they emerged.
I cast a little prestidigitation on some of my party members to clean up the signs of battle on them.
Clean some mummy dust off.
There you go. Just get Get some blood off of you. There we go. Everybody.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Everybody scatter and blend. Scatter
Little
and
less
blend.
singed.
Quick point of order question. Are there bodies of civilians, innocents?
Yes.
Right? Well, so I'm asking because the ones who were sort of yoinked into the shadow vat, I'm assuming we don't have their bodies. The ones who were ganked by black puddings, I'm assuming those got melted down. So no one was doing regular sword damage other than us.
No, that's a good point.
Are there bodies?
There
Or is
are
there
bodies.
the absence
they
of bodies?
are desiccated.
Yeah.
Like they look like husks.
Yeah.
Like something's been sucked out of them.
Yeah.
Anything that was absorbed by the black pudding is gone.
Yeah.
There are a couple that had been. There are a couple bodies laying around that have like their necks are torn, and look to have been bleeding from there, and they almost look emaciated. Somebody can run a medicine check on those if you want, like while you were helping out.
I mean, we saw the monster biting into their necks, so we were aware that it was ripping their throats out for reasons.
It was
unknown.
doing something.
Yeah.
It is not anything that you recognize. That is not. You've seen like predators go after throats and stuff like that. You've never fought anything. None of you would have any glimmer of recognition.
Do I note any black lines or signs of necrotic or any kind of a spreading of disease or contagion around the bites? Because if it's all over him and it's all over everything that these things have touched, desiccation, spreading of darkness or curse, I just want to make sure the corpses aren't also becoming, just gardens for curse and disease.
Biohazards.
Yeah, through some sort of magical arcane means. I'm like, okay, let's check and see. No, looks like a normal
there's
dead
no
thing.
evidence of any kind of zombie virus.
Right, yeah. Or worse.
A contingent of Templars, about a dozen or so, kind of from a couple different alleyways, enter the marketplace. And they're looking around and they don't see Forte, and they look at Karis, who is leaning heavily on this Dragonborn. And nobody has any weapons raised. And and Karis looks up and they're like, Captain, what? And Karis goes, he kind of holds up a hand and says, stand down. Stand down. And he kind of like heaves a breath and he looks at Jaxiron, he looks at Bronwyn, and he's like, Can you help me over to them? So I can explain. So we can explain what we saw.
Jaxiron steps wordlessly alongside and just, sort of positions himself where Karis can hold one arm. Jaxiron himself still looking like quite worse for wear, He came out of that with 5 hit points, so he's...
As you all are hobbling over.
Yeah.
He notices your limp and goes, oh, sorry, and kind of leans a little more weight on Bronwyn.
Doesn't bother him any. It's more just like anyone who looks at him can tell he's been through some shit, so...
I will say, Will is not limping, or at least not visibly. Like maybe with a sufficient perception check or something, someone would notice that he's concealing, a couple of injuries, but he's knowing that he had just been in a fight. You would say, this is on purpose, right? That he's hiding how hurt he is. He's no selling his injuries.
You see, like, through, in between Karis and Bronwyn, Jessamine kind of squeezes through, moves up, and kind of reaches up and very gently puts a hand on Karis's side as a just like, wait a moment. And she explains to the Templars there what had transpired before Karis arrived. And you see as Karis learns that Rodri is dead. Like, I don't think in the chaos he even clocked it. As he just heard the screaming in the plaza and run towards it. And he's I'll let all y'all's insight stand. Like, you see him process that and is like, over a goblin market. Over the Fae? That's what this was about? And he's sort of almost recovering some energy in that indignation. And you can see, anyone can roll new insight if you want to, but I'll also let past roll stand. Because it's fairly obvious that the rest of the assembled Templars are also shocked. Some of them shift a little uncomfortably, like in a "are we the baddies" kind of way. And in this kind of I think Kazzra, you'll get the impression that some of them may have been more in line with the thinking of like, this should or should not be allowed, but are looking around the plaza as in what could possibly be the justification for taking it this far. And I think are coming to the realization that this is the inevitable endgame of that kind of fear-based power play. And they don't seem comfortable with it, as they're faced with this example of Karis, who had run in and fulfilled his oath and protected innocence and fought against the darkness in a way that is more in line with the actual teachings. And so a lot of them are just very much taken aback. And Karis kind of inhales and goes, like, there's this realization amongst everyone, is like the eyes of the Templars looking around the plaza then zero in on Karis as you're now the highest ranked person here. What do we do? And he starts giving orders for cleanup, for last rites, for tending to the wounded and getting them to the hospital, calling in the clerics of the moon, and getting that dealt with. Like, it starts to kind of take command of the situation. One of the Templars passes him a healing potion, and he just kind of quaffs it real quick and hands the empty bottle back and just starts giving, eventually kind of gently shifts off of Bronwyn and Jaxiron and just starts giving cleanup orders and peacekeeping orders. And
Kazzra's got a moment in thought, and he sort of turns after hearing what Karis said. He kind of looks to the party. He's right, over a goblin market. Show one's hand as a heretic and some creature of darkness and assault a town for a goblin market really does not make sense. Making that somewhat of a smoke screen. Does anybody know anything about Fae and goblins or anything that maybe interact? I look over to Jessamine. Has there been a long-standing quarrel or issue or incompatibility with the powers of darkness and the random chaos of the Fae in a way that rings any bells to you in your sorcerer chaos heart?
She gives just a low kind of, in this situation, mirthless laugh, but you can tell she would have cackled at that in any other time. She says the Fae embrace a spectrum of magic that the communion is not fully comfortable with. And so there's always been tension there between the Fae and the Empire. And I mean, we call them goblin markets, but the goblin clans are just, by long-standing familiar tradition and boon, are selected as the protectors of the markets. They're really Fae markets.
Yes, really Fae markets. It's just,
But
it's
they
strangeness of the timing is what is here. Karis is 100% correct. There's no reason why an enemy entrenched, hiding its true nature, would reveal itself in such a public way when there are Templars all about. Look at them all. They've all rushed in. None of them are suddenly bursting into shadow creatures and attacking. This is what was potentially suicide and a very poor strategic move. It is confounding me why this would have happened here, unless there's something about the target, Roderick, that we are failing to understand in this moment in time.
There's something here that I can't quite... Maddox's the political mind, not me. But you're right. There's something... Rodri was... The Cyrils are part of... Ellis has never been really part of the Empire. I mean, it is politically, we are politically, but Silver City is more aligned with the Empire in some senses than the Lowlands are, because the Lowlands were always, it was an elven kingdom long ago, you know, and so they were never conquered. They came willingly into alliance with the Empire, and so they always were a little bit independent. And I think that, you know, there were old treaties that were upheld. And I think that, you know, I went to school in Polara at the Golden Dome. I mean, I know there's resentment there, but I still can't. He said that there was word passed down, and she's thinking back to where, like the very start before Rodri was killed. It's like he said something about a law being passed that certain things, like the treaty that lets the goblin markets happen, will no longer be tolerated in the Empire. I don't know.
Well, then let us put a pin in this discussion, for this is not a place to have it. My companions, it seems as though the Templars have this square thoroughly handled and are doing what they should do for the town. I suggest that we retreat either to Rodri's home or to a local tavern somewhere out of their way. Preferably Rodri's home, as it most likely has information. Or would you prefer to simply stand out here and wait for the Templars to tell us what to do? Very well. I start making my way towards Rodri's home.
Will is almost like in a got me. Like, I'm content to leave this town entirely. So, like, that's the vibe you're picking up on Will. Like,
I do stop and I turn back and I say, because I was thinking of this, but since nobody's following, like, before such things happened and wandering off to the goblin market as we did, there was some discussion of the word world shapers, which Rodri had information regarding, which I believe is directly tied to us and our backgrounds and the things that have happened to us. Yes, there is darkness. Yes, there are creatures of Templars moving. There are heretics. Until such time as I see that this is linked to our current predicament of winding up in a cave full of blue glowing crystals, having our souls sucked out of us, or yada yada, I am content to simply move along, provided that it gets me information on where we came from and why we were there. Rodri has that information in his study. So while all of this is happening, let us quietly make our way there. See if we cannot find another thread to pull.
Pertinax has just been kind of standing again, sort of off to the side and listening. And at that, he kind of says, I agree, let's go, and starts walking with you towards Rodri's.
Jessamine holds up a hand and says, Can someone help me get his body back?
Sure. Rodriguez?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jaxiron will just walk over and pick it up, hold it, like in front of him, arms curled around it, just silently turns to her and basically like takes her cue as far as like, if we're going to the same place, great. If not, whatever she wants to do with it.
Also, has anyone seen Tamsin?
He left with Maddox this morning for Silver City. I'm gonna try to send him a message, but I need to think on what to say. Just help me get Rodri back to his home. Boulder can perform Rodri's preferred last rites.
Off to Rodri's we go.
Lead the way. As we're going, like anyone who sort of, gets a curious look or is whispering to each other, like Jaxiron just gives them the nastiest glare of just like, Nunya, like, have some respect kind of thing. Like,
yeah. I'm gonna, as you walk through the streets carrying this, there's definitely an air of somberness. Word has spread fast about what happened in the square. The minute Rodri Serral's body hit that platform, people were running. And he was, you can tell, I don't even think it takes an insight check to tell as you pass, people make various religious signs of the equivalent of crossing themselves, and not to ward off something, but in a sign of, there's also, you see people make this sort of symbol, which is seems to be something religious. You see
Possibly the sun.
People hold their hands in a circle above their head with the thumbs touching their forehead, with their head slightly bowed. There's people who stand with a fist clutched against their heart in what is very obviously a salute of respect. This is someone who was well beloved in this city. So there's not anything disrespectful that you encounter. And as you make your way up the streets, holding this body in this somber silence, that's where we will end this episode.
So now we leave Alice, the dead behind us. More questions than answers. Perhaps soon we'll learn more of this world and how we can make it better.